Hello everyone, with the Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Sunday evening, July 27, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you all like this video. I'd really appreciate it if you all get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season. That's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below, let me know what the that's been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Taking a look at the U.S. National Hurricane Center 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook, we can see that as of their latest update that came out at 7:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is actually 6:11 p.m. Jamaica time, tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days, and this is the reason why we don't have much of anything taking place across the Atlantic. As we look at the infrared, there's a strong tropical wave coming off of Africa. Some clouds associated with the tropical wave currently affecting the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico that should be affecting Jamaica on Monday. But that's basically it. Nothing really stands out that, gives the hurricane center a sign that something could develop. And we know that if something should develop, the next name on the list is Dexter. However, on the eastern Pacific side of things, we have a brand new tropical depression right here to the southeast of Hawaii. We have to the east of that tropical depression a medium percent chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days, a 40% chance at that, an area right there. And to the east of that area that has a medium percent chance of cyclone development, we have an area that has a high chance of tropical cyclone development within the next 7 days. And if we take a look at the infrared, we can make out all of these entities. That tropical depression right here for reference, we have Hawaii right here off the picture. That's in the central Pacific, so it makes sense that we're not seeing it across the eastern Pacific. I believe this is the other area to the east of it that has a medium percent chance of cyclone development within the next 7 days. And right here to the south of Mexico, we have a huge mass of clouds, showers and thunderstorms associated with what could be next in line after this area acquires the next name on the list, which is Gil. Then we have Henriette, then we have Ivo. Let's see if we actually get all of those names. However, on the western Pacific side of things, we're still watching the tropical storm Kome right here to the east of Taiwan, and to the east of Kome we still have that now Typhoon Croza. And if we take a look at the infrared, we can see the clouds associated with Kome. If you remember, Kome definitely crossed over the northern portion of the Philippines. Then I believe it was absorbed by Francisco for sure, and then now we have Kome right in here. Now we have Croza, Typhoon Croza, that's a hurricane right in here to the southeast of Japan. And if we take a look at the statistics, this tropical storm Kome is expected to push out towards the west-northwest, then possibly make landfall into portions of eastern China. We can see the intensity right here, keeping it as a 35 knot system, increasing in intensity as the days go by, 45, 50. So we know that anywhere from 34 all the way up to 64 knots is referred to as a tropical storm. So it should maintain tropical storm status as it closes in on China. But regarding the typhoon, that's Croza right here, still to the southeast of Taiwan, it's expected to increase in intensity. Look at the statistics up to 80 knots, 85, 90, and clearly 90 is going to be the strongest. It is going to be, as you can see, after 90 it decreases, 85, 75, and we see all of this is over a good, let's say, 3-4 day time frame. We see the time period right in here. This is the 27th, the 28th, 29th, 30. That's 3 days so far. Then the 31st, and then we have the first day of August right in here. So it's expected to move very slowly, pushing towards the north as it passes to the east of Japan. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see a tropical wave right here across the Western Caribbean. You can see another tropical wave right here that's currently affecting the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. That should be bringing some amount of rainfall to portions of Jamaica on Monday. Another tropical wave right here to the east of the Caribbean. And we see another tropical wave right here to the west of the Cabo Verde Islands. All of these entities being steered from east-west, all courtesy of the ridge of high pressure to the north that we know sends them in that direction. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost sunlight, I think we can make out some of these entities. The clouds associated with that tropical wave currently bring some amount of rainfall to portion of Belize, section of Honduras and Nicaragua. The clouds associated with that other tropical wave that definitely lashed portions of the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico today, and is expected to bring some of that rainfall to Jamaica. The clouds associated with that other tropical wave more so to the north of the basin than anything else. And we see the other clouds associated with that tropical wave right in here to the west of the Cabo Verde Islands. Most of the moisture associated with it is squashed to the south. All of these entities, as we can see here, being steered from east to west, all courtesy of the ridge of high pressure to the north. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Sunday, July 27, 2025. It was stated that rainfall could have been in the forecast of parts of northern and eastern Jamaica on Sunday morning, also affecting sections of some central and western parishes during Sunday afternoon. We know northern parishes, we're talking about those parishes like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, while eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston and St. Andrew, and then it was predicted that we'd get some rainfall across central and western parishes. We know that central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine. Our western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And nothing actually took place in the morning for eastern Jamaica or northern Jamaica. Nothing at all. All of the clouds are out to sea. Nothing really took place. Definitely sunny condition. But the afternoon definitely brought that rainfall to sections of some central and western parishes. More so some south central and southwestern parishes. So more so this area right here, let's say from St. Catherine westward, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland. That's where the brunt of today's thunderstorm activity was. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images right here, we can see what took place. But before we do that, we need to highlight the post that was made here on our Twitter page with the Jamaica. Keep in mind that these posts aren't only made here on our Twitter page, but they're also made on our Instagram page with the Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So we can see the clouds bring some overcast skies, if not some isolated thunder showers, to sections of some central and western parishes, but more so some south central and western parishes, like St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, section of Westmoreland. Definitely gotten some of that isolated afternoon thunder shower activity. And if we take a look at the visible right here before we lost the sunlight, we can make that out even better. St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland. Some of the clouds spilling into sections of Hanover and St. James and even Trelawney by the time we're beginning to lose the sunlight, and we still had those thunderstorms right here off to the southwest at that time. The infrared definitely confirming that thunderstorm activity out west. All of the blues, greens, yellows, oranges, and reds represent that cumulonimbus cloud cover, and we saw the sparkling white dots in there that represent some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. So it definitely had that thunderstorm activity across especially Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, sections of Manchester, Clarendon, northwestern St. Catherine for sure, but other areas didn't really getting on much of anything at all. And we definitely have confirmation right here, the live camera here from C Jamaica's YouTube channel at around 12:01 p.m. You can see halfway through, definitely sunny for the most part. Nothing in the way of bad weather taking place. And I would like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit C Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams all for you all to view for free. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. That's C Jamaica. Even the total accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours is confirming that rainfall that took place across section of northern St. Catherine, section of Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland for sure, even although we didn't get not much of anything across Hanover. Can you confirm for me, Ryan? I'm sure it didn't get that much of anything more than clouds. All of the rainfall was across sections of mostly Westmoreland, section of St. Elizabeth, for sure. But this map does indeed paint quite the picture of where we might have had that rainfall. We definitely have some comments that came in today. We have Fest Genius stating, "Me get little a Spanish tone." We have Shade Atkins stating, "Raining in Maypen, thank you Lord." Even on our Instagram page, we had a boy's mom _365 stating, "Got a little here, I'm so grateful." We also have I3110 stating, "Started in my side of Clarendon. Thank you all for confirming what the weather is like in your area for today." Alright, so let us reload the very latest still image from the Weather Nerds website. Let us see what's happening right now. Alright, so the very latest still image is showing 0005 UTC, which is actually 7:05 p.m. So this just came out 11 minutes ago, considering that it is 7:16 p.m. right now. And as you can see, we still have some leftover clouds across the western end of the island, Hanover, Westmoreland, St. James, section of St. Elizabeth. But do we actually have rain bands underneath all of this? Let us see what the latest Cuban Doppler radar, as a matter of fact. Let's see if the Met Services Doppler radar is up to date as yet. It was showing July 24 yesterday. Let's see if it's showing July 27 now today. Nope, still showing the test imagery. Hopefully they get it sorted out this week. Let's see. Either way, we're reloading the latest Cuban Doppler radar, the latest Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar, and the latest Cayman radar to confirm what's taking place right now. Alright, so if this updates, we should be seeing the moisture across the western end. We see some of that already. The greens into the blues, into the yellows. There's some light to moderate to some slightly heavy rainfall right here, affecting portions of Westmoreland. Let us see what the latest timestamp is though. It is showing all the way up to 7:10 p.m., which is actually 6:10 p.m. Jamaica time, so I guess it glitched out, because we know that the time right now is 7:17 p.m. so it should be showing 8, if not 8:10 p.m., but it's glitched out, showing 6:10 p.m. instead. But we saw that we're definitely getting some rainfall at that time across the western end of the island. The Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar not really showing much of anything right here across northeastern Jamaica, but we do see some rain bands across southeastern Cuba and western peninsula of Haiti. The Cayman radar, on the other hand, let us see what's taking place over here. It's actually showing that rainfall out west, definitely coinciding with the satellite image of the clouds out here. So we actually see the rainfall as well right in here, the blues into the green. That represents some light rainfall, nothing significant, just some leftover moisture across sections of, let's say, southern Hanover, sections of Westmoreland for sure. Just some drizzle, maybe some dew right now. You can also see some isolated rain bands right here across section of the waters to the south of Cuba and to the west of the Cayman Islands. Taking a look at what's happening on the live camera here from C Jamaica's YouTube channel, showing Orange Street downtown. You can see people walking about, going about their business, people in their vehicles going about their business. Nothing in the way of bad weather taking place, and that should be the order of the night. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we have 28 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay as well as Kingston. And by about 4 a.m. on Monday, temperature should dip down to about 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 24 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Monday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Monday. And we can see Jamaica right here embedded in some slight yellows that represents at least 1 degree Celsius above normal temperature. I know the normal temperature for the month of July across Jamaica is around 91 degrees Fahrenheit. And when that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that is around 32.8 degrees Celsius. So given that we're going to be receiving at least a 1 degree Celsius rise in temperature tomorrow, we should be receiving anywhere from 32.8 degrees Celsius to 33.8 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on a Monday. And unfortunately, we have some maintenance outage advisories here from my JPS Online's Twitter page that we have to highlight. And we know that we have to highlight these because we know that when we have power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down. So if you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, please let them know that a power outage is coming their way on Monday, July 28, 2025. We're referring to Agualta Vale in St. Mary from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're also referring to Capital Heights in St. James from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Old Harbor Glades in St. Catherine from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and finally Enfield in Westmoreland from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, dress down, wear lightweight clothing and use sunscreen. Check on others including children, elderly people with medical conditions and pets. Be cool, stay indoors and make use of fans and air conditioners. Avoid alcohol and caffeine as they can make dehydration worse. Limit non-essential strenuous activity during the hottest parts of the day. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Keep hydrated by drinking lots of water even if you're not thirsty. And put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map, we know that the dry air is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those areas. We can see the abundance of dry air extending all the way from Africa across the main development region into the southern Bahamas, the Greater Antilles, the Gulf, all in here. A lot of dry, stable air responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable, making it harder for it to rain. But we wish we had more of this that we see across the southwestern Atlantic. But look at that, we see some moisture across the southern Caribbean, central into the eastern Caribbean, associated with the tropical waves that we mentioned, the one right here and the other one right in here. So we'll take the moist air for sure, because you know, wherever we have moist air, especially across the eastern Pacific, the intertropical convergence zone of the Atlantic, that's where we have most of the clouds that we get more rainfall to keep water in our pipes. We'll take the moist air for sure. Regarding the Saharan dust forecast for the next 3 days, so we're at July 27, we're heading into July 28, July 29, and July 30. And as you can see, Jamaica is right here, should be in the clear for the most part. Some Saharan dust should be coming in by around July 30, but it is nothing significant, just some slight greens. We don't see that crazy orange and pinky shade that we see coming off of Africa right now. That looks like a vigorous plume coming off of Africa as we speak. For the next 3 days, nothing like that, just some slight Saharan dust. You won't even notice this in the sky, but maybe if this huge plume that we see coming through actually makes it over intact, we might see some very hazy skies. And I hope that you all have your meds handy just in case next week brings forth some amount, if not next weekend, brings forth some amount of crazy Saharan dust that could trigger some amount of respiratory illnesses, asthma, sinusitis, you name it. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, still seeing that the highest waves are right here to the south of Jamaica. Wherever we have the dark blues into the purples, that's where we have the 2 to 2.5 meter wave heights, and that's because of the strong winds that are expected down there. We see the greens, we see the yellows, that represents 20 to 25 knot winds coming in from the east. But if we zoom in on Jamaica's waves, let us see to the south of St. Thomas tomorrow, up to 1.5, 1.6 meter wave height. To the north of Portland, 1.2 meter wave height. To the north of St. Anne, 1.1 meter wave height. To the south of Manchester, 0.6 of a meter wave height. To the south of Westmoreland, 0.6 of a meter wave height. 0.9 of a meter wave height. To the north of Hanover, and that's because of the winds that are expected. We don't see strong winds at all, averaging 16 knots to the south of St. Thomas, 13 knots to the south of Clarendon. We also see it coming in from the northeast, averaging 11 knots right here to the north of the St. James and Trelawney border. And we also see where the air is expected to pile up. Wherever we have the least amount of wind, that's where we could have the low-level clouds building into mid-level clouds, and then we have them up in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So we get the cumulonimbus cloud cover, and then tomorrow's upper level wind shear seems to be coming in more so from the west, if not the west southwest tomorrow. So that could favor some of the thunderstorms or the cloud toss being sheared off towards that direction, maybe especially across northern Jamaica. We'll see. Either way, rainfall is definitely in the forecast tomorrow. This map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both valid for 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 10 a.m. Jamaica time, and we do see the rain bands across sections of the island, especially across the eastern end. We see the blues, maybe across the eastern St. Thomas. The Euro definitely showing a lot, even some dark blues and greens in there across the east. And then it is by the afternoon that the brunt of the rainfall comes in. Not really much on the Euro, but we do see the blues represent some rainfall here and there from the eastern end to the western end. GFS on the other hand, now we have to look at what the GFS is showing too, because the GFS has been right regarding the afternoon rainfall for the most part. So let's see how it goes. We see almost every parish shaded in some amount of rainfall, and it's a high signal for rainfall. It's not like those light shades of blues, it's some dark shades of blues into the green. So it's a high signal for rainfall tomorrow. We see that across sections of St. Thomas, Portland, Kingston and St. Andrews, St. Catherine, section of Western St. Mary, St. Anne, section of Clarendon, section of St. Catherine, if I didn't say that parish yet, Manchester, Trelawney, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, getting in on some of the afternoon rainfall for sure. And the thing is, this rainfall could definitely start earlier than 3 p.m. Jamaica time. So look out for that. All of the rainfall is coming in, all courtesy of the tropical wave. So who knows, maybe it starts out in the morning, some of these rain bands pushing in from the east, coming into central and western parishes during the morning as well, not necessarily during the afternoon. So it could be in the morning spilling into the afternoon as well. And even the total accumulated precipitation for the next 24 hours is showing that we're going to be in for some amount of rainfall for sure. The Euro going all the way up to the slight reds, represent maybe close to an inch of rainfall across the western end. GFS going up to at least 0.66 of an inch of rainfall. It could be more than that, it could be less than that. Either way, there's rainfall definitely in the forecast. The strong signal in terms of the total accumulated precipitation on the supercomputer models right here, and we will definitely take it because we're in the month of July. We're in a dry period, as you know. In Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top, we usually receive around 50 millimeters of rainfall for the month of July. In Montego Bay, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the bottom, we usually receive around 3.2 inches of rainfall for the month of July. And I would like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of July or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that web shall to show that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters that we receive on the rain gauge. We know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us, according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go to the next one, John 68 hours. That stands for the next 7 days. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represents inches of rainfall, especially the greens. Let us see what's going to be taking place. So we're looking at the Euro first, then we're looking at the GFS. 12Z on Tuesday, which is actually 7 a.m. What do we see? We see some moisture to the north, south, and east of Jamaica on Tuesday morning. Then on Tuesday afternoon, look at that. The greens represent rainfall should be across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Tuesday morning, it looks like the moisture should be to the southwest of us. Tuesday afternoon, what do we see? Rainfall across actually eastern, central, and western parishes as well. Let's see what Wednesday morning shows. On Wednesday morning, maybe some rainfall across the far eastern end of Jamaica. Wednesday afternoon, it looks like the rainfall should be across the far western end. See the slight green right there? What does the GFS show? Wednesday morning, not really seeing much of anything in terms of rainfall, so we don't have consensus. Wednesday afternoon, however, we see rainfall across the northern and western ends of the island. Interesting. What do we see for Thursday morning? On Thursday morning, we see some rainfall to the northeast of us. On Thursday afternoon, we see rainfall across central and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Thursday morning, rainfall to the northeast of us. Thursday afternoon, we see rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What do we see for Friday morning? Friday morning, don't really see much of anything. Friday afternoon, what do we see? Rainfall across central and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Friday morning, rainfall across the eastern end of the island. Friday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the Euro show for Saturday morning? Saturday morning, not really showing much of anything. Saturday afternoon, what do we see? Not really much of anything either. Maybe some isolated shores across the southern end of the island, but we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Sunday, August 3. Don't really see much of anything at the end of the next 7 days on the Euro. What does the GFS show? Saturday morning, not really much of anything. Saturday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across the western end. We're also seeing an abundance of moisture across the eastern Caribbean. We saw the moisture on the Euro, but it was more so to the north of the Leeward Island. And we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours as well. So this is valid for Sunday, August 3. We see an abundance of moisture extending from the southern and southeastern US, extending out to sea. On the Caribbean side now, we see rainfall extending from the southwestern Caribbean as central into the eastern Caribbean. Not really see much of anything across Jamaica, maybe the eastern and far western end alone getting on some isolated shore. But regarding the total accumulated precipitation for the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are adamant that the most rainfall over the next week should be across the areas as usual, you know, Central America into Northern South America. That's all of about 2 all the way up to maybe 5 inches of rainfall. So some isolated flash flooding is definitely possible, while the greens into the yellows into the oranges, at least an inch of rainfall or less is going to be for the Lesser Antilles, into the Greater Antilles, into the Bahamas and Florida right in here. While regarding Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation for the next 7 days, we still see Jamaica shaded from the eastern end to the western end. In the blues, greens, yellows, that represents anywhere from a millimeter all the way up to at least 40. The Euro going up to at least 47 millimeters in Trelawney. The GFS going even into the oranges, that represent maybe up to 50 millimeters of rainfall, especially along the cockpit country right here. We'll see exactly what unfolds, and I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. Alright, so let us switch gears and focus our attention on the Caribbean. As stated, we have some moisture associated with a tropical wave that lashed portions of Puerto Rico today, so too the Dominican Republic. Another set of moisture right here to the north of the eastern Caribbean associated with a tropical wave. The usual thunderstorm activity across northern South America into Central America as usual, nothing new there. But let us see what's happening regarding the Doppler radar imagery. In and around Puerto Rico, we actually see some moisture across northeastern Puerto Rico to the south of there as well. We see some isolated hit or miss showers to the east of Guadeloupe and Dominica. If we load these images from earlier today, we can see where we actually had some decent rainfall in and around Puerto Rico from that tropical wave. Look at the hit or miss rainfall. More so hit. Look at the rainfall for sure coming into eastern Puerto Rico. That's the thing, when we usually have tropical waves, the eastern ends of the islands usually receive the brunt of the rainfall. I really appreciate that. Hopefully Jamaica will be in for some of that rainfall on Monday, if not into Tuesday. Let us see what the Barbados radar is showing. We actually see some rainfall passing through, some hit or miss isolated showers, light to moderate rainfall at that, pushing in from the east towards section of Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Grenadines already getting in on some amount of rainfall as we speak. Sections of Trinidad and Tobago getting in on some isolated showers as well. And the weather wave Doppler radar images showing the moisture associated with the tropical wave passing to the south of Dominican Republic. We also see some moisture across northwestern Honduras, sections of Belize and northern Guatemala, so too sections of northwestern and eastern Venezuela. And regarding where the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are adamant that the most rainfall over the next 24 hours should be wherever we have the darkest rays. We're talking about maybe Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, while other areas that are shaded in the greens, yellows, oranges and reds at least an inch or less of rainfall, like sections of the Bahamas, Florida, section of Cuba, section of Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands, sections of Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis, sections of Antigua and Barbuda, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, section of Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, Venezuela, section of Colombia. We also see rainfall expected for El Salvador, section of Guatemala, Belize, the Yucatan, and we clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with this forecast. I know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances are higher for it to actually take place. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.